For those who have been following me, they know for sure I lived in California for like 7 years or 8 years before I moved to Kansas City, Missouri. So, and one of the following question people are asking, what is the cost of living in the United States of America? That is a very broad question, but people want to say, if I want to live in America, which state should I go to live? Should I live in New York? Should I go to live in Hawaii? Should I live in California? I want to live in a place there is no snow, so I want to live in California. I want to go to Disney. I want to go to live in Florida, wherever you want to live. But what are the actual costs of living in those areas you want to go? And in rather, I can be able to explain why did I move from California to Belton, Missouri, here where I live. Okay, let's start. The cost of living in America varies from a state to a state, from city to a city, from neighborhood to another neighborhood. There is no a clear cut. You can say, okay, California is a very expensive state. But again, depends which city you live in California. Do you live in San Diego? Do you live in LA? Do you live in San Francisco? Do you live in Sacramento? Where do you live in California? And again, if you live in San Diego, do you live in La Jolla? Or do you live in another city? Do you live in El Cajon? So it depends which part in San Diego you live, because there is a part which is close to the beach, will be more expensive. There is a neighborhood which you call this is upper neighborhood. It depends. So there is a neighborhood will determine the price of the apartment. The state itself will determine the price of apartment. But if you live in the desert area of California, it will be cheaper. So that is number one. We are looking for the state, city, neighborhood in terms of the house, whether you want to buy the house, whether you want to rent your apartment. Because the biggest cost in America you are going to have is where you are going to live, is apartment, house. That is the biggest cost. Then it will come about the food and other things, about gas and other things. So I will be talking about the number one, the bigger cost will be using or will be incurring when you live in America, or just overall where you live will be determining. So if you go to California, you find a house like this one. This is a small house. Our neighbor lives here. So if that house is in California, in San Diego, that house, I can guarantee you, you can purchase that house for almost $500,000 US. That house in California. But if you come here, this house can buy less than 100,000, I think, whatever. Because all these houses around my neighborhood, like all these houses you can see around here, there is no house which is above 200,000 US. These houses. And these houses, they have a very big backyard. They have a very big space. Some of these are almost a half an acre areas, or 0.4 acre, things of that nature. But they have a space. You have a very big front yard. You have a very big backyard. So that is something number one. This is my house where I live. It's not about show off. It's just want to show a point. So this house is less than 200,000. It's a public record. Basically, if you go to find the homes in this neighborhood, you will find this. So it's not about whatever. You just go there, put Belton City, find the house, you will find the prices of all the homes. So that is number one. So this house is less than 200,000. But the same house, if it is in California, you will be able to pay this house for almost $1 million because of how big it is, and the backyard is so big at the back over there compared to the life in California. But if it is an apartment, you want to rent this one here in Kansas or here in Missouri in general, this one you'll be able to rent for at least 1,000 to 1,400, 500, around that price. And that you are renting the whole house if you are renting. But if you want to rent a house in California like this one to rent, you are talking about at least 3,000 in many places. At least. Because a 2-bedroom apartment in California is in San Diego, for instance, you're talking about minimum 2,000. Many places. One single bedroom, you're talking about 1,200 or 300. So you see the cost of living apartment housing is higher state to over another state. You are going to New York. You are going to Virginia. You are going Northern Virginia. You are going to DC. You are going to Maryland. You are going to Hawaii. You are coming to you are going to California. You are going to Illinois, especially Chicago. You are going to Boston, like in Massachusetts, but Boston. Those are higher income areas. So you are going to be paying a lot for apartments. Single bedroom, 1,300. That is a very normal tiny apartment of single bedroom. You are going to have 3 bedroom. You are talking about almost 3,000 and above. But here, 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom, you can get it for 2,000. Very, very affordable. So that is number one. So where do you want to live will determine. Then another thing comes is it comes to be about the tax. So the taxes will depend. There are some of the taxes, states, they don't have income tax, they don't have the tax on this something, on this kind of food, whatever. For instance, California, they don't have tax on certain kind of food, vegetables and other things. You come to Missouri, you pay tax for almost everything. So it depends again about the taxing. It goes again to the price of gas or petrol, whatever. One state is higher. You go to California, is maybe 1 gallon. 1 gallon is about 4 liters. 1 gallon is about $4. Here, 1 gallon is about $2. I'm giving an example. So it depends, like the cost overall where they are. But overall, if you live in California, it is very expensive. You live in Hawaii, it's so expensive. You live in Virginia, Northern Virginia, DC, Maryland is so expensive. You live in Chicago, it's so expensive. To afford an area, it's so expensive. And still, the minimum wage is not that great. Most of the job, if you do the minimum job, minimum wage is just the normal $10, $8, $12, which is the same way like living here. So the minimum job, you can work here, you can get $10, like the same one you are working. I'm talking about the normal jobs, which is the same one like you live in California. So you end up like having 3 jobs or 2.5 jobs in California to survive, but you can live here with 1 job and be able to sustain. For instance, here I live, we decided, my wife and I'll be the one working at the moment because we have little kids. So that helps us for kids to have someone, a parent, being there with the kids 24/7. But if I'm in California, I cannot afford one person to work, another one having the kids. So you end up like funding daycare, which is also very expensive. Those areas daycare, you find like just 1 child, you're talking about nearby 2,000 per month. But here still is expensive. We're talking about 1,500. So there are so many costs like related like that way. What determines one place over the other? Overall, some of the other prices like food in general will be like more or less the same, but the biggest cost which differentiate changes from one state to another state is the housing, apartments. That is very big, which determining. And again, now it comes to personal preference, because some people, they say, okay, I want to live in California because it's a big state, I'll have so many jobs. Yes, it can be that way, but sometimes it is very competitive to get jobs, because there are so many people who are looking for jobs compared to the smaller states where there are few jobs, but also there are not many people who are looking for jobs. So it depends. Each place, they have advantages and disadvantages. Another thing to consider is where I'm going to live. I want to live in New York City. Okay, that's good. But how do I raise my kids? Do I want to raise my kids in the big New York, Manhattan, New York City? That's what I want to do. Living in a very small just apartment where you cannot have a place to play, the kids cannot go out and play, or should I have coming to live in this kind of neighborhood, bigger area, the kids can be playing around, I have a very big backyard over there, we can play even soccer, like put like every time, I can have my garden over there, I can plant some veggies. What kind of life do I prefer? It comes to your personal preference. When we had a child and then we had another one, that is when reality started kicking in. We have to find every single way of moving away from California. We were not able to afford. Even if we come down the road to buy a house, we cannot buy a house in California. It will be a very tiny, small thing. But moving here, we have this advantage. I don't say that this is a smart move. It is a smart move for me, for my plan. What is your plan? Your plan can be, and it again depends on your preference, and it depends on your program and your job. For instance, if you're a high-tech person, obviously bigger states like California, they have so many opportunities for people in high-tech. That's why majority of people for high-tech, for instance, they're in Northern California, because that is where Apple and all other high-tech Palo Alto is. But if it depends, you cannot go, for instance, from West Virginia and you want to be the very successful IT guy. You can do IT, yes, but there are not so many opportunities for science and technology in certain states versus other states. So again, it depends on what kind of your education, your program, your work experience, and what kind of job are you looking. So all those items will play part in deciding where to live. But don't go to live in a place because, oh, I want to live in California, there is no snow, I can be going to the beach. Trust me, you might not go to the beach because you don't have money. You have to work 2 jobs so that you can be able to afford to live in California. So there is beach, but you don't enjoy beach. There is Disney, but you cannot afford to go to Disney because it is very expensive. And people in other states, from Ohio, from Texas, they go there, they just have good money, they saved, they go to California and they just go to San Diego Zoo, they go to, let's say they go to Disneyland, they decide, okay, let's go to SeaWorld, wherever they enjoy, then they go away. But for you, you are there, you cannot afford to go to SeaWorld, you cannot afford to go to Disney because it is very, very expensive. So don't just be proud, oh, I live in California, the biggest state, I understand. I live in New York, the biggest state, whatever. So what? Is that the purpose of coming here, just to live in downtown? That's all? What is your purpose of coming from whatever country you are? Coming from Brazil, coming from Chile, coming from Colombia, to come to America? What was your purpose? What was the reason of coming here? Did you come here to become just a normal person? Or you come here, decided to excel? If you want to excel, find what works for you. Not just to show off like I live in this nice, bigger state, whatever, but in the end you cannot live in that state. You are just a small insect in that state. Better to live even like in West Virginia, but you can be very successful and reach your dreams. What you want to accomplish, you can be able to accomplish them. Yeah, so that is what I was planning to give you. Like, there is no clear-cut answer like go and live in this state. There are so many factors, there are so many things will play part to make a decision for you. Where do you want to live? Which state should you live? And why should you live in that state? There is just about family, there is about weather, there is about type of job you are looking for, whatever, all the other things. Because if you want your job is like oil and gas, doing some of the things related to oil, I cannot advise you to come to work in California. I mean, to come to work in Missouri or Kansas. Texas will be the perfect area, because it's a state with a lot of oil and gas, things of that nature. So sometimes the nature of the job, your profession, will technically force you to live in a certain state, whether you like it or not. So, what is your take? Which state do you prefer? Where do you live? Which state do you live? And why do you live in that state? Please share your opinion here. Share your comment here. Explain to me, I decided to live in this state because of 1, 2, 3. So that another person, maybe planning to come to live in America, can be able to find out what other option is having. I explained my option. I lived in California, but before the first day I came to America, I lived in West Virginia for 1 year. Then I moved to California. Oh, I was excited that I'm going to California. No snow, there is this one. Governor is Arnold back in the time. So all other things, it was at that time of the year. Back in 2009, whatever, when I moved to California, lived in San Diego, lived in nearby Los Angeles. So then you come to have a family, the time goes on, you see what changes you need to make in your life, then in the end you see, okay, let me continue with something else. So thank you everyone, and I'm looking forward to read your comments here and sharing your experience so that others can be able to make a decision which state or which cities should they go to live. So thank you and goodbye everyone.